A message from Feng Wei for all Chilean heart friends and heart friends throughout the world. On the hope of happiness and the legacy of levity. Beloved ones, today it is my great pleasure to bring each of you the hope of your happiness fulfilled and the legacy of your levity realized. What are these hopes and legacies, save your own fun ways of experiencing heaven's glory and internalizing what God is continuously offering your spirit of her greater spirit of cosmic joy? The hope of happiness fulfilled is the birthright of every soul. God desires you to be happy and to live in a perpetual state of divine grace. In this state, your eternal nature shines through you, and the effervescent joy of true beingness manifests. You are lifted up as if by angels of bliss to know God's presence all around you and to experience what it means to be a son or daughter of the Most High God. Happiness is fleeting for those who have lost their connection with their source, for it originates from the earthy, and is in this domain temporal. However, happiness is everlasting for those who abide in the presence of the One. For the sacred radiation of God's light sustains them always in the sense of true peace and oneness. Numerous wise men and women shared in a sacred document that God has extended to all mankind certain inalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. From the perspective of the ascended masters, the greater pursuit is the happiness of the collective consciousness of all mankind through a true brother-sisterhood born of respect for one another and through reverence for life itself. When all beings pursue happiness for all life beyond a desire for self alone, the entire culture of earth is raised through enlightened, selfless motives and caring attitudes fostered by loving kindness. When each being feels him or herself as a part of the whole and integrated with every other being, a divine legacy of levity begins to emerge. Divine legacies are built upon foundations of selfless love and thoughtful givingness. You enter into the sacred field of God's eternal heart when you happily engage others in fruitful works of the Spirit. Gratitude and thankfulness, especially within humble prayer and mindful meditation, naturally co-create a higher harmonic field of grace through which angelic intercession may occur. Although the universe knows your needs before you enumerate them outwardly, when you obey the injunction to ask that you may receive and to knock so that the door may be opened unto you, you invite the universe to open its opportunities and divine quintessences unto you. I forge a fun way upon which all may walk and soar. It is hallowed with the holy humor of God rather than anything that contains subtle yet often destructive innuendo or caustic commentary as much of today's so-called comedy does. Those of us in heaven who consider ourselves rich in divine joy often cringe when we consider how low your culture's humor has descended. It is time that devotees of light engage with us in elevating consciousness through witty yet righteous verbiage, through uplifting rather than demeaning jokes that seek the brighter side of life, where you live, move, and have your being upon earth. Relish the lighter side of every situation, dear ones. Share good news, including passages from the inner gospels of truth that we offer to the humble of heart and the happy of mind. When your life is fulfilled, you will have the joyful memories of happiness elevated to etheric fire levels, even while all sad and painful memories are completely transmuted by the Maxon light of levity. I am holding you in the victorious sense always, so that you can co-create your own ode to joy and your own opus of bliss. Thank you. I believe that we can maintain this higher state of awareness of living in the eternal fields of holy humor and divine joy and create that ode to joy and our own opus of bliss through various practices and disciplines, including meditation, prayer, study, service, exercise, recreation, which is recreation, and even rest. In addition, we can spend our time in deep devotion and adoration of God, which, even if it is not oral or verbal, is still very important for the health of our hearts. If you have a heart issue, there may be something just a little bit off in how you relate to God within yourself, God within others, God in the universe. And so if you ramp up your devotion and adoration of God, I believe this can make a difference and bring you greater heart health. Of course, prayer is always one of the most beneficial practices for our own spiritual health, because we are communicating with God. And of course, meditation, likewise, is the flip side of the coin, because in silence we allow God to communicate directly with us. Study, service, exercise, recreation or recreation, and rest are all important and based on what is happening in our lives, the stresses that we at times face through our obligations and what we have committed to and what is coming upon us. These really serve us to regenerate, resurrect. And so a time of rest, like the seventh day after God created the world, and 7 epochs of time, which are said to be days, but from God's perspective, a day could be an epoch or an eon. That day of rest is important. And if we live busy lives, then maybe we have portions or times of rest for this recreation and renewal in order that we can give more when we go back to work or engage in service. If we're always only working and sweating great drops of blood while doing that, the tension can create stress, which in turn can affect our health and well-being. And so to de-stress is very, very important for light workers, light bearers, light sharers, because it puts us back in that sacred space of beingness where we know that God is really the doer anyway, and we're just an instrument. And lest we think that we're doing so much and we're the doer, we have to remind ourselves that God is the doer. And when God is the doer, things just seem to flow better. I think we've all experienced that. When we get in the way of our doing, then we're undoing ourselves, right? If our ego gets in the way of our doing, it is toward our undoing. So if we allow God to be the doer and to engage in the doing through us, through this state of grace, equanimity and peace and harmony, then our mindfulness increases, our balance is sustained, our harmony aerates the atmosphere with the inner joy of our hearts, knowing that God is present in our lives and that the miracle of God's grace is there, sustaining us. The miracle of God's grace is always there, sustaining us. And thank you, Fun Way, for this message today. Now we shall pray.